Hey ladies, welcome to episode 29. I had the ultimate pleasure of sitting down with none other than Dr. Taylor Bryant. She is a forensic psychologist who has brought the heat for this episode. We're going to be talking about, and she defines so eloquently, the definition and the difference between self-worth and self-value. We go in deep, y'all, on some really hot topics. We're going to dissect self-worth versus self-value. You ready? Let's dive in. Dr. Taylor Bryant, you are in my seat again. I'm so excited to have you here to chat.
Thank you so much for having me again. I was so excited to come and see and have another conversation with you.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. Yes, under the new brand and all the good things.
Yeah.
All the good things. So when you and I actually spoke, honestly, it was like a couple days ago, and we were thinking about, okay, so what exactly do we want to bring to our audience this time?
Mm-hmm.
And because you are a trauma specialist, right, I think it's important first for the people just to give them an idea of who you are,
Okay.
right? And then we're going to go into how we're going to impact them this morning over coffee chat.
All right. Sounds good.
Yes, yes. Dr. Taylor Bryant.
So a little bit about me is I have a background in forensic psychology. And what that basically means is it ties in law, psychology, and crime. It helps me understand behavior and the why people do what they do. And help explain that to others who are just like, why would somebody behave that way, show up that way, act that way, or do that to that person? I've always been curious of that ever since I was like 15, 16 years old watching SVU with my mom.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what led me into the work that I do today with trauma.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And then what would you say as far as like, what do you enjoy doing the most as far as who you help? Who you have the most interact on?
I really like working with women who are mothers, who've experienced trauma. So that adds like another layer to it, because who you are as a parent in general, it shows up. Your trauma can show up through that, and how you raise your kids, how you become overwhelmed, or how you handle things when you're overstimulated. So I really appreciate working with a mom who kind of has that background of, I've experienced something really difficult, emotional turmoil, and I don't want to pass that on to my child.
Yeah, I think what I like about you is you're very vocal. I watch you like on social media, and you know how people go there and they want to give a sense of like, I have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
I admire you because you just like, hey, look, I had a terrible day and this is why. Or, hey, guess what? I just landed a great account. Oh, guess what? My daughter decided that she wanted to pee on the floor. Like, I love that you're
all of it.
You're giving it. So it's like getting to know you in real life, but it's on social media. So that's what I enjoy the most. So yeah, that's why I like having conversations with you. Let's talk about what we said we were going to talk about.
Okay.
Yes. So you and I had a great conversation. 15-minute conversation. It was impactful. And we were talking about self-value versus self-worth.
Yep.
And I wanted to share that with our community because it's really important. It's one of the pillars of this page, or, you know, my podcast and also YouTube channel. And I think it's important for people to understand it. A lot of people don't like to talk about it.
They don't
at all. So let's like unpack it if we can. Okay.
I brought my suitcase. It's open.
I know, that's right. Okay, so I get on the couch, lay down. Yes. So let's share the difference, because a lot of people think that let's define it.
Okay.
Like self-worth versus self-value. Like, how do you see it? Like, how do you define the two?
So self-worth more so looks at who you are. So no matter what's going on in your life, you kind of show up and you know that you deserve happiness. You know you deserve for people to treat you with respect. And you know you deserve good things to come to you. So self-worth is reflective of who you are and what you think about yourself. Now that can be thrown off by, like I was mentioning earlier, trauma, difficult relationships with people, or your upbringing. So your self-worth, it should be stationary, but sometimes, you know, it can go up and down like a roller coaster. Self-confidence is more about what you can do. So like you with this podcast, or as a realtor, you know what you're doing. You've got a lot of skills. You feel confident when you're showing a house to somebody. It's about what you can do. Me as a therapist, I'm confident that I know I can help people through their trauma. I can show up for them and change their mindsets. I'm confident in that. But if you were to ask me to sell a house, my confidence would probably go like this because I don't have that skill set.
Right.
So confidence is more about what you can do. Worth is more about who you are.
I love that because I like to think that one of the things that I hold true to myself is living in, I say it all the time, living in my truth, right?
Yeah.
And you do have to have the confidence to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have the fear of not being able to, or putting someone off or dimming your light. There's so many different ways you can go about it.
Yeah.
But there's traumatic experiences that cause people not to have that sense of self-worth.
Yes.
Can we talk about some of those things?
Absolutely.
Okay. What are some of the things that you're seeing?
With self-worth specifically? I see a lot of low self-worth when it comes to relationships. So I am introducing with clients a lot boundaries. It's important to have boundaries because boundaries teach other people how to treat you. Boundaries show other people that you have self-worth. When you come from a background of, let's say, domestic violence or physical abuse, you might learn that that type of behavior is okay. Love is somebody hits me. Love is somebody calls me out of my name. Love is this. So then you take that same belief into the relationships that you go into as you grow up. And you believe that's your worth. I am worthy of that type of love.
Oh.
So you start to become attracted to those type of behaviors in other people because chaos is familiar. So you believe that, it's called stuck points. What you believe in your heart is I don't have that worth or I'm not deserving of other things. This is what I'm deserving of.
So what do you do? Like, so how does someone recognize that they're in a state of chaos if they don't know any better?
I'm sure they may know. I always like to say it's about choice and what are we aware of? What are we choosing to be aware of? What are we choosing to avoid? Sometimes in life, you know when something's wrong, but you don't do anything about it because, again, chaos is familiar and it's predictable. You know what comes next, even if it's not healthy for you.
Okay. So, Dr. Bryan, I just want to look back in a little bit more because I just think, so is it a fear that's keeping them from making that choice to change or, okay.
The fear of the unknown. So when you think about undertaking something new, you can be scared, but putting it over to self-confidence. You're not confident in your ability to go out and try new things because you don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
You haven't felt it. You haven't experienced it. You haven't touched it. So when somebody is looking to go from a toxic or unhealthy relationship to something healthy, there's fear there because what do I expect? Well, I've never seen this before. What am I even looking for? This is unfamiliar. And some people fear that and they shy away from it for comfortability. They'd rather stay. What they know is coming next.
Or they'll revert back to it. So they'll get out and they'll
Absolutely.
get into this healthy relationship. And then for whatever reason, they cause the chaos and it becomes toxic because they're just like, okay, this is not familiar to me. Yeah. And I've seen situations or people where they'll just want to start trouble just because it just feels, that's just natural to them.
Absolutely.
It just feels good to them. So then as a person, when you're saying setting boundaries, like how do you set that boundary so it doesn't happen to you? If you're the receiver of it, right? And you don't know it, it's normal. Like how do you set that boundary to say, nope, I'm worthy of better?
I'm going to take a couple steps back. What you were speaking to when you repeat the same cycle, that's called repetition compulsion. So it's like this compulsion to repeat and it's subconscious, which you already know. So once you become aware of that and you're moving to a relationship, let's say with somebody who is still kind of a little bit toxic, but you are now aware of this is your pattern, teaching them how to treat you. So the first time there is a fight and they want to disrespect you or call you out your name, you just have to say, listen, let's go ahead and take a pause. I can see that you're clearly upset. I don't want this to go where I know it can go. Let's revisit this later. That teaches the person that they're not to call you out of your name or disrespect you, and that space is needed and okay when we're not seeing eye to eye with things. If you don't do that and you allow an argument like that to ensue, that just kind of sets the standard for what's going to happen as the relationship progresses.
Right. So you have to protect your peace and create those boundaries.
And people fear setting boundaries because they don't want to lose somebody.
The fear of loss.
The fear of loss. I don't want to set this boundary and then my husband leaves me, or I don't want to set this boundary and I don't have friends anymore. But like I mentioned earlier, boundaries teach other people how to treat you.
Mhm.
And if people do respect you or they see your worth, right, they'll stay and they'll respect those boundaries you have.
Yeah. I wanted to take 2 seconds to share with you that this particular episode is brought to you by Rob Shaw and Allstate Insurance. If you're looking for someone to give you insurance, whether it's home insurance, car insurance, go to him. He is your guy. Thank you, Rob, for sponsoring this show. So we hear people say respecting your boundaries. And yet I don't think people understand, like, what is an actual boundary? Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack that for a little bit. So what are boundaries?
Boundaries, there's all types of boundaries. There's emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, mental boundaries. Let's say you don't like being jealous. You would have to then open up and share with that person, like, hey, these are the type of things that make me feel jealous. So can we stay away from that? Or can we steer the conversation in a different direction so that it doesn't happen, to pull that out of me? That's having that respect, right? And there's like physical boundaries. I don't like when you're in my bubble.
Yeah.
I don't like when you touch me.
Yeah.
That's physical, right? And then mental is kind of like that. You're going to talk to me with respect. So those are the different type of boundaries that exist out there.
Okay. So we have emotional, physical, and mental boundaries.
Yeah.
And then we have to decide like how we want to show up in those different boundary sets.
Yeah.
And if we don't, then we're going to be more than likely, we're going to have less self-worth.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Y'all, I got it. I got it.
Yes. And, I like that you mentioned that, because if somebody is consistently crossing your boundaries and you allow it, that speaks to your self-worth and your self-value and what you think you deserve.
Okay. Okay. So then, to the person that does not know how to set boundaries, how are we doing this? How are we setting the boundaries? Let's talk about emotional boundaries first. Okay. How do we set emotional boundaries to protect ourselves?
I believe first you have to spend time with yourself. What are my triggers? What makes me feel like I'm threatened, makes me feel unsafe, which makes me feel icky. You got to spend time with that and become aware, whether it's your physical boundaries, emotional or mental. Awareness is key. And then you can start to pinpoint where that happens in your life. And I'm going to take it a little step deeper. You can have different boundaries depending on the relationship with the person. So with respect to that, you have to decide, how do I have this conversation with this person and then enforce that?
Ooh, okay. Okay. So, and I had a thought when you said that, and you want to step back. So now I got to think about what it was, because that was really good. Really good. Because I think a lot of times we're afraid to have those boundaries set up, right? So what if you don't really know yourself, right? A lot of people, I think we struggle with, okay, so who are we? And we don't know like what boundary to set, because we're still trying to figure ourselves out. So let's just say to the emerging, woman, right? Because the people that are attracted to this podcast are probably similar like us, we're go-getter, ambitious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to the person that's the go-getter and that's ambitious, and yet it's like, okay, so what is my emotional boundaries? Like, she's saying all these things. Like, what are the steps I need to take, like, to figure that out? Like, what are they?
If you are figuring that out, I do mention like writing in the journal, trying to figure out what your triggers are. But if you're like a people pleaser and you're always wanting to do things for other people, but it burns you out, there's a skill called no, but. Because saying no is a boundary. Saying no is a complete sentence. No, I can't do that for you. But sometimes for women like us, it comes with guilt, or it can come with shame, or it can come with, they're going to think I'm incompetent or I can't handle all that. So you might be able to say, no, I can't get that report to you by closing at 5 p.m. But what I can do is have it on your desk by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So you can offer an alternative. If you want to do the thing they're asking you to do, but in a different way, no, but. That continues to help build your confidence and your ability to set those boundaries. And then as you're building your confidence, I feel like you can stand tall and start to see your worth. People will start to respect that.
Yeah, yeah. I know I would if someone said no, but. Like, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
You're able to say no, and you're also able to put a standard on, okay, I can't do it now, and yet I'm able to do it this time, right? So me receiving that I'm just thinking from a colleague, my child, or my husband, I'm like, okay, cool. I feel like I've been set in my place gently.
Yep.
And they're standing up for themselves. So I respect you more for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it is about, respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about my son, Mommy, can I have this? Can I have that? And I say, no, but what this, he asks me for all the time, hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I said, son, you have to eat healthy. How about we do, what did I offer him? A bean burger or something like that. So now he'll say that to me. He'll offer his choices. Mommy, I know I can't have this, but can I have this? Like he's starting
Right.
to think about that. So that's how you can set it up with your child too. And they start to understand boundaries and what comes next and what's acceptable.
Okay.
It all starts in our childhood, honestly, how we grow up and learn our self-worth and value.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, okay. Hey, I'm hoping you're enjoying this episode of Coffee with E. I had to take 30 seconds to share with you one of our sponsors for this episode, Top Construction. They are a premier construction company located in Central PA. So if you live in Dauphin, Cumberland, Lancaster, and Lebanon counties, you want to check them out. Not only are they reliable, they are reasonable, and they get the job done. Now, let's go back to the episode. So thank you, Dr. Bryant.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's go from the mental perspective. What are some key things that people can do to protect or provide boundaries to their mental state?
That's a little bit more difficult than the physical because it takes a journey through yourself to know what triggers you mentally or psychologically. If you have lived through difficult experiences or trauma, a lot of people will repress that, meaning they put it back so far that they can't even access it, but it comes out in their responses through their emotions sometimes. What I mean by that is, let's say you grew up in a home where yelling and arguing was common.
Okay.
Then you far remove yourself from that, right? And then you get into a relationship where maybe your partner is yelling at you and calling you names. So you react intensely to that because mentally it takes you back to that place. Sometimes people don't make that connection because trauma is nasty. And again, people will repress as a defense mechanism for themselves. You have to spend a lot of time going through your past and realizing what is it that can really send me over, like phrases that people say. Maybe there's some phrases that remind you of a bad time in your life. Things that make you feel like you're being disrespected. All those are some things to consider when it comes to mental boundaries. And then you have to communicate that. That's the difficult part.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is good. People think communication is confrontation. So they'll hide it and they won't talk about it. They just assume, if you have like a partner, let's go with that. They just assume that person knows what you're thinking and that they should treat you this way. As we know, with partners, you can be together for 25 years. They're not mind readers.
They're not
but
mind readers.
People will sit in their own comfortability and not, stir up the coffee cup, if you will, to say, like, this is what I'm dealing with. I need to set some boundaries. It's uncomfortable to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And they think it's going to turn into a confrontation or conflict. Truths are difficult. Would you rather sit in that internal turmoil, or would you rather have that conversation so that you're now respected and people know how to treat you? Okay,
so to the person that has trouble or would rather not enter into what they think is conflict or, confrontation, help them. How do we communicate?
Oh, there's so many skills. I wish I would have brought my little handy binder. When you're going into a conversation where it could go left quick, there's something called source responsibility. So that means whatever you're feeling, put it on yourself. Use I statements. So if I'm really upset by something that a partner is doing, I might say, hey, I feel really discouraged when you call me this, or when you say I can't do this. I feel really discouraged. And then you can have that conversation next about what you need. When you say you, pointing the finger, that makes somebody feel like they're at blame, even if they are, right? But that makes them get defensive. And then before you know it, the conversation goes left and we're walking away with hurt boundaries. And for one of the parties, or maybe both, lower worth.
Right. So simple thing like you get on my nerves, that's something we should avoid.
I mean, sometimes you do get on my nerves. You can say, I'm feeling really irritated right now.
I'm feeling really irritated right now.
Yeah.
I want to work on that. I'm feeling really irritated right now. Okay.
Yes. I'm feeling really irritated because this conversation is going in circles. Can we figure out how to get it back on track?
Okay.
You're putting it on you. The emotions, you're responsible for your own emotions. People can make you feel a certain way, but you're responsible with how you are going to react to it.
Yeah. And that is true. That is true. And I think it's very common for when you're in conversations that you was like, you did this, you do that. So it's just like a new learned method, if you will, technique.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some practice.
Oh my gosh, it's called unlearning. So
unlearning.
You have to unlearn years or even decades of what has worked for you. Because things work until they don't, right?
Right.
You can take that old habit and that unpack that suitcase. I love that phrase that you use because I use that too. Yeah. You could bring that same baggage into a new relationship, but it's not going to be put back in the drawers accurately, if you catch what I'm saying. You have to figure out new ways to navigate. You have to unlearn your old ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you feel yourself about to, you got to self-correct.
Yep.
And it's okay to say, I'm sorry. You know what? It wasn't you. It was me. And just being the bigger person. Yeah. I think a lot of times that we don't like to do that. Like, no, you made me react that way, so it's your fault. No.
What's easier, to take accountability for something or to blame somebody else? Most people are going to say, blame somebody else.
Somebody else, yeah.
Because you don't have to do the work then.
Right. Yeah, my mom made me this way, or my dad made me this way, so this is who I am. No, you're 50 years old. What are you talking about? It's time to grow up.
I have a client now who I do family reunification, and I know because of the trauma that he's been through, I can't divulge too much, but he talks to his wife in a way that is very disrespectful, but he has this mentality of, I have to be this way to protect myself. Like, if I show that I'm big and I'm bad, that people will not bother me. But to her, it just depletes her.
Yeah.
It just significantly drains her. And she's asking me, like, well, what do I do with that? Because, like, I don't want him to leave me. I'm like, you have to show him that you deserve respect. You have to set those boundaries with him and say, listen, I love you. I'm not going anywhere, but also you're not going to talk to me like that.
Yeah.
When we have those conversations in session, he's saying, I can't do that. I can't put the language together like you're saying. I'm not going to do it. And I say to him, you can't or you won't. Because it sounds to me like you won't. And then he just pauses and he reflects and he goes, well, that's how my dad was. And I'm like, there it is. So you can. You're just scared to start changing because you don't know what that looks like. It's unfamiliar. And it was kind of a breakthrough for him as it was for her.
Yeah.
So sure, you went through difficult things in your life, but you have the power to take all of that back and unlearn all of that trauma, all of those stuck points and beliefs, and move forward in newness, increase your confidence and increase your worth so that you can feel better in life.
Right.
Or in your relationships.
Yeah, that is so good. So good. So that was a great segue, believe it or not, because power and control as it relates to trauma. So how does experiencing trauma impact one's self of power and control?
Trauma at the core and the very nature of trauma is a loss of control.
Oh, okay. Repeat that. Dr. Bryan, you were just dropping some gems.
Trauma at its very core is a loss of power. It's a loss of control. You feel helpless. You feel as if, what could I have done to make this not happen? And that's where it starts. People will try to go back to the trauma and say, well, if I didn't text that person, well, if I didn't leave at that time, well, if I didn't turn down that street, if I didn't go to that bar, if I didn't wear that skirt, there's a lot of victim blaming in trauma.
Yeah.
Then that wouldn't have happened. So when it comes to trauma, people will try to do what they can to now control the future. And they will get stuck in similar situations and become unsafe in other situations because we're not thinking about safety over here. We're thinking about controlling that very situation from happening again, if that makes sense. So we see that a lot with trauma.
Big thank you to Sugaring NYC Harrisburg for sponsoring this episode. It's because of them we're able to bring this great content to you. Are you searching for a fabulous place that does lashes and eyebrows that slay, or hair removal that just makes you feel so great? You want to check them out. Now back to our show. So how do you work through that? Because when you say that, it's like I could see, certain people. I'm like, yeah, I've actually seen that. So worried about controlling a situation because of past traumas. I'll label it that because I didn't know what it was before, but past traumas causing them to want to over control to the point where they lose control over everything else around them.
I want to give you an example. So let's say somebody had a break-in into their house, right? Somebody broke in, so now they're focused on making sure the windows are locked all the time, the back doors are locked, they'll double check, right? But then they're going out to the bars and, overindulging in alcohol and not paying attention to their surroundings. So it's still danger, around, but we're only focusing on the one thing because we're trying to control that from happening again.
Mm-hmm.
Not thinking about how am I unsafe in other ways.
Right. So then working through that is going to be talking to someone like yourself, is what I'm hearing you say. And just like, okay, you just have to release that control, knowing that, okay, yeah, that was that one incident that happened, but that doesn't have to be your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And take notice of all the surroundings in every situation, right? To keep you safe as much as you possibly can.
And one thing too is, when I'm dealing with somebody that has some stuck points or some beliefs around safety or that power and control, is looking at the probability of something happening. So if somebody broke into your house, you become so fixated on that not happening again, right? But what's the probability of that happening again?
Mm-hmm.
And when you can have that conversation, of course, dig a little bit deeper and make the connections for the client, you start to see the probability of somebody breaking into my house again is fairly low.
Yeah.
Or the probability of engaging in or being assaulted again is probably very low. But once those things happen to you, it's hard to let go of that thought that it's going to happen tonight again.
Yeah.
Or it's going to happen next weekend, or it's going to happen at this point. So people will over control things to, in their mind, stop it from happening ever again.
So could the same thing affect someone that didn't actually go through it, but they saw it on the news or in social media? I was thinking that because when you were talking, the first thing I thought about was just recently, all of these plane crashes.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm so glad you mentioned that, but yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So people are now afraid to fly because of all of the, the news media, like this being like, I don't know, like they're magnifying it. And it just so happened that, planes do crash. So I caught myself, if I'm being honest, I had to go away twice this month. I'm thinking, oh gosh. And the one before is when they just had the accident. I forget where, but it was fairly close. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, okay, what was
in Arizona?
Yeah. What was the airline?
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, let's try to avoid that. And I caught myself like, no, Erica, you can't have fear. You can't control everything. I can pray, ask God to have his angels of protection surrounding all around me. That's all I can do, right? But I can't live in fear. So when you were saying, I'm like, how much does social media play a part in that too? Or the media, period?
It plays a huge role. There's something called vicarious trauma, and that's exactly what you're speaking to. The trauma doesn't happen to you, but it happens to people you know or are associated with. And it can have the same impacts as if it happened to you. I just had that conversation with my husband actually earlier. We're waiting for something to come in, and then we're going to take a nice little vacation.
Yes.
And for our 7-year anniversary in August. And I said to him, do we want to go somewhere drivable? Because
see,
I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But when I paused to challenge myself a little bit, I'm like, okay, well, what is the probability of this actually happening?
What is the probability of it actually happening?
And plane crashes they're rare. And when you look at the statistics, I don't want to say only, that minimizes. Last year, there was like 1,200 plane accidents. But how many planes fly every day? More than 1,200, right? So accidents are going to happen. That's something that's outside of our control. But what's the probability that that's going to happen all the time? And when it comes to social media in general or the news, they're only showing you what's popular.
Yeah.
Fear mongering. So you have to be wary of that too.
Yeah. So
right now the focus is plane crashes. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of that over the next couple of months.
Yeah, 100%. And then just the executive orders in itself too.
Yeah.
That's causing, despair.
Yeah.
For the government workers. So yeah.
So
to those people, right, that are going through that could be traumatic.
Absolutely.
So what are some things that you would say to them as far as how to get power and control back into their life?
When it comes to the planes or just
vicarious
trauma?
Vicarious trauma all over. Yep. Or the government workers even too, what they're going through too. You know what I mean?
There is a skill that I like to introduce, and that is, what is the evidence? you have to challenge the evidence and what's happening in your life. So if you have a thought such as, I'm not safe, let's first pause and look at the evidence that supports that. Where are you at? Oh, well, I'm in a nice, beautiful home right now, and it doesn't seem like there's any danger around, so I feel okay. Then you have to go through the evidence and say, well, what is the evidence against that? If there's no active, trauma happening or anybody trying to break in, there's nothing like that happening. And when you can pause and sit back and see the truth, then you can start to feel safe. Then you can start to feel like I can take control back over this situation.
Mm-hmm. So what is the evidence to support how I'm feeling?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
And I want to put a pin in that really quick because that's a cognitive distortion, emotional reasoning. Sometimes our feelings feel true.
Yes, they do.
But our feelings are meant to come and go like the ocean, like waves. But for people that have experienced trauma, those emotions will come in and freeze, so much so that it becomes beliefs for us. And we start to feel like our feelings are valid. That our feelings are valid, are true.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, it's not. You gotta look at the logic.
Wow.
Yeah. There's lots to unpack there, too.
There is a lot to unpack. Good Lord. Good Lord. Okay, so we want to go back to self-worth a little bit versus the self-value and how it affects our life choices. And I think we hit on it a little bit. So I'm just going to ask the question directly. So what are some common ways low self-worth shows up in our day-to-day decisions, even when we cannot recognize them?
The inability to make a decision. So like second guessing yourself, not feeling like you're worthy of certain things, not feeling like you're good enough, feeling like an imposter. We talked about imposter syndrome before. That can show up in your daily behaviors with things. Even if your partner says, hey, what's for dinner? Oh, well, let's go to Chick-fil-A. Well, actually, how about we go to Olive Garden? Well, I don't know. That indecisive is. That can show up.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So not being able to make a decision, like where you want to eat for dinner,
Yep.
could potentially be a sign of self-worth, low self-worth.
Yes.
Wow.
Because it can be attached to those stuck points that you have of I'm not good enough, or I always make the wrong decision, or I can't trust my decisions because in the past I've picked wrong or ended up in bad situations that harm me.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of inner work and also sitting down with a professional to uncover and see this happening, right in front of your face. But for people that don't get a therapist or are not doing that self-exploration, that's kind of a sign where you can see like, maybe something is going on there, especially if you have a history of trauma.
Wow. Okay. So then how does the low self-esteem or self-worth affect like relationships and your career choices and your relationships? Like how can you see those signs? Like, where do you see those signs?
I want to make this super basic. Settling.
Settling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So some people that have low self-worth will tend to settle for things that they know, like, I could go for that, but I don't want to fail, or I'm not good enough, or somebody else is better when they're fully qualified for it. Or I want to go for that person that I'm interested in, but this person here is available, and they take me on dates every now. They're mean to me, but they still show me love in this way. Settling.
Wow.
You settle for what you think you deserve.
Yeah. And here we think it's so complicated. And it's just settling. So don't settle.
Don't settle.
Yeah. Just in case you don't know, these episodes are brought to you and funded majority from my real estate team, the Erica Rawls team. So thank you for continuing to support this channel. And if you're looking to sponsor in any way, one of the best gifts you can give us is a referral. So if you know anyone that's looking to buy or to sell, reach out to us. We are here to help. So to the person that seems to have a lifetime of settling, how do you change that?
Inner work. Like, there's so much more that goes to that, but taking some time, which is very uncomfortable. A lot of people don't want to be alone. They don't want to sit in the silence. They want to fill it with noise. They want to fill it with chaos because they don't want to reflect on the things that they've been through in their life. Yeah. Painful. It really is. But I mentioned earlier, choosing your difficult. Do you want to stay in the settling? Do you want to stay unhappy? Or do you want to, because that's difficult, right? Or do you want to do the work to actually see that you're worthy and you deserve so much more and there's a life of happiness on the other side?
Do you want to stay in the difficult?
Do you want to stay in the difficult?
Wow.
Or do you want to go into the challenges to get outside of that difficult? Because it's both difficult, right?
Right.
But which one is more uncomfortable? It's probably the staying, even though it feels familiar.
Yeah, and it's going to be more traumatic in the long run by staying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So having the courage. So you need the courage to make that change so you don't settle.
Absolutely.
And then with courage, you have to do some work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do some work on yourself in order for you to be able to have, the capacity to make that change, whatever is necessary for you to live your true self.
Yeah, I think a lot of people growing up, and especially in society, get the message that you have to do more. You have to be a certain way. You have to show up a certain way. And that dampens a lot of people's self-confidence because they feel like they don't have the skill to do the thing that's being required of them or the vision that they see for themselves.
You are dropping so many gems today. Like, seriously, like, this is really, really good. Sorry, I got excited. I just ruined your whole momentum. Go ahead. Continue. Yeah.
But what society thinks about you and what other people have said to you, it can be the voice that's going on in your head telling you can't do it, you're not good enough. It impacts your confidence to do things. But if you are confident in who you are, no matter what's going on around you, you deserve happiness, you can do it, you can achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to then go out and get what you deserve and stand on that.
Stand
on business.
Stand on business.
That's what self-worth is. You're standing on who you are.
Here's the thing. You made it so simple, right? You really did. You made it so simple. We make it complicated. We think that we have to be dramatic in order for us to have a podcast. We have to be at the Oprah level before we do it.
Yeah.
We just make it overly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So just to hear you say that you don't have to have it all, right?
You don't.
In order to start, you're going to learn, along the way. And that's the most important part. That's the most, it's the journey. Keep on doing it. It's the journey.
How much confidence do you get in going through things, experiencing setbacks, experiencing failures? Because when you experience that, then you have the confidence to know when it comes again, because when, not if, right, that you can overcome it. I remember doing trauma therapy with a young girl who's 16 a couple years ago. She's 23 now. And she reached out to me and said she wants to be a psychologist now, too.
Oh, that's so great.
But she was like, but I still have this trauma I'm dealing with and some new things that have happened to me. I'll never be able to do what you're doing. I said, girl, that's not true. I said, your experience plus the education you'd have to go through to become that, like, you can sit in front of somebody and know exactly, like, emotionally and mentally what they've been through. I said, that's an added little razzle dazzle there. Most people want to sit in front of somebody that has a similar experience over the education. Not to, like, downplay education, but, like, still, sometimes experience is what builds your confidence and your ability to know what's going to come next or how to help somebody.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the people that you serve the best are the people, that are just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember, there was a quote and I cannot think of it. It was similar to that, but seriously, it's about what you're saying there.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Yeah. The people that you can serve the best are the people that are going through what you went through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe
so. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This was so great. We have to have you back.
I will come back. I love
this. We have to have you back because I think this is great. Okay, so for people at home, if you're watching from home, drinking your coffee, or you're on your way to work, when you get a moment, we need to hear from you. We want to hear some comments. What did you think? Did you find value in this? Do you feel more confident in yourself? Are you able to actually get to a point where you could evolve, where you just don't even care about what other people think because you believe in your self-worth and you have self-value? Are you able to set those boundaries that we talked about? Whether it's emotional, mental, or physical boundaries. Those are so important for you to live the life that you choose. We are rooting for you and can't wait to see you in the comments.